4, 3, 2, 1.
We interrupt our program to bring you this important message.
A confirmed attack is taking place against the United States. Aliens from an unknown location have been reported in multiple states.
We are controlling transmission.
There is another world that awaits, far beyond what we can see and feel. A place that's anything but ordinary.
What you believe might not be. Step into the zone of the vast unknown. UFOs, aliens, ghosts, bigfoot, conspiracies and cover-ups. Into the Parabnormal we go with Jeremy Scott.
So I guess we're going to end with you keep watching.
We'll keep squatching.
And go out and find Bigfoot.
Who knew? That video, dated September 20th, would be the final on the Squatch America YouTube channel. You heard Scott and Hannah Violette, who have not just been guests on this program, but have become part of my family. This is going to be an incredibly hard show tonight. I cannot guarantee that I won't break down and cry at some point. In fact, I think it's all but about guaranteed. As you can tell, a somber mood on the program. We learned last week that a very, very good friend, a Bigfoot researcher, an anthropologist, a friend is so many, and the list goes on, preacher, school teacher, stage magician, author, father, and husband, and veteran. Scot Violette has left us, and it still shocks me to this day. As I sit here, I must say, this one really, really hurts, friends. With over 800 episodes, we've talked to thousands of people on this program. But none of them have opened their heart to me personally as much as Scot Violette and his wife, Hannah. And for those who are tuning into the program tonight, who are the close friends and family, the extended family, those who knew and loved Scott so well, we hope you can find some comfort in the program tonight as we reflect, and as we hear in Scott's own words why he was who he was, why he lived the life he did. You know, we talk about Bigfoot on this program, but it goes beyond that. There's so many people in this field who do not get along with each other and will throw paranormal and UFOs and everything else in there. There's infighting. There's bickering. Everybody's competing with each other. They're worried about the rights. Who's going to break this? Who's going to get the exclusive? And what we forget in the process is that we're all family, or we're supposed to be. And from everybody that I've talked to, and from all of the interactions that I've seen, Scot Violette treated everybody like family. He certainly made me feel a part of the family when he invited me to the first ever Bigfoot Fest that he was producing on his own. And somebody by the name of Dr. Jeff Meldrum was going to be there. And to be invited, to be a participant, to be there riding shotgun, moderating a town hall, hosting the radio show, interacting with fellow Bigfooters, Me? And I know Scott felt the same way, that he would be put in the company of someone as such high caliber as now the Dr. Jeff Meldrum. I can't even believe that we lose Dr. Jeff Meldrum and Scot Violette within a matter of 2 weeks. And here Scott was on just a couple of weeks ago talking about Dr. Meldrum's life, and now we're paying tribute to Scott. It began far beyond what you're about to hear, but the news was shared with the world on the Squanch America channel. We'd known that Scott was going through some health issues, but then it got real.
All right. Hello, Squatch American. Scott here from Squatch America.
And Hannah, domestic goddess, cheap cooking, doggy mama, outside the paddy wagon today, and we are bringing you some personal news.
Yep, we have notes so we don't miss stuff, but you heard me mention in the past few videos about health problems that I've been having.
And our fights with the VA.
And all that stuff.
Yeah.
And we want to get down to the brass tacks and give you the fine details.
Because and these are things that we actually just learned yesterday.
Yeah.
So it's
something that happened probably 4 days ago, but we spent the day at the VA hospital yesterday, and the verdict is in, put it that way.
I so felt for Scott to hear what we were about to hear. It just devastated me.
All the blood in my system pools in my legs, and when I stand up, it doesn't
go anywhere.
So, standing up for me is like switching off my brain. The oxygen goes away, the blood goes away, and I pass out. I can stand up, I can walk for 2 or 3 steps, but my heart rate to compensate for this goes through the roof. So walking 3 steps for me is like running a marathon. And I can stay on my feet for roughly 10, 15, 20 seconds. If I'm not moving, I can stand up for about 5 minutes until I pass out. So where that's left me now is basically in the wheelchair. And I'm going to be there for the rest of my life.
Can you just imagine someone like Scott, as vibrant, in love with the outdoors, in love with Bigfoot, as he was? The thought that he would be confined to a wheelchair for the rest of his life, I know that didn't sit well with him. But he vowed to fight and to keep searching for what he believed to be real.
So how does that affect us as Squatch America?
It's going to affect our lives, and it's going to affect how we run Squatch America. But it doesn't change who I am. And it doesn't change what we do. We'll still investigate the unexplained and try to not explain the uninvestigated. But we're going to do it a little bit differently now.
We're going to find Bigfoot, and we're going to find it for Scott. Scott would want that. He was working on some technology that just may help in that regard. So tonight, because we need to heal together through this moment in time, friends, both in the Bigfoot community and in the personal life of Scot Violette and his wife Hannah, as I get all choked up, will join us tonight as we pay tribute tonight into the paranormal. We're going to hear from Scott's friends and family tonight on the program. Those who feel comfortable in doing so. Many are still grieving through this process. We've extended an invitation to as many as we possibly can. One thing that I didn't mention, I alluded to the fact that through Scot Violette is how I met Dr. Jeff Meldrum, but then it continued because after the COVID pandemic, we resumed the Blue Mountain Bigfoot Festival in 2023 and then in 2024. And I was so honored to come across Michael Freeman and Todd Neese and Robert Leiterman, Tom and Peggy Seawood, and other fellow passionate Bigfooters from all around the world. Enjoyed meeting Tom Bennett, the one-man band, who's also a Bigfoot researcher. So Scott actually connected people, and we're trying to hold it together for him. And speaking of one of those names that I mentioned, I think we have one of them on the line. Hi, who is this?
Hey, this is Robert Leiterman with the Bluff Creek Project.
Hi, Robert. It is good to hear your voice. I have still next to me the jar of sand, I guess we would call it, silt, I don't know, from the original Patterson-Gimlin film site.
Yeah,
Sitting
actually,
right here.
that's the second. Yeah, that's the second one. Remember the first one got dropped?
Yes, oh, you're going to embarrass me here. Yeah, Robert was so generous to give me one of these. And, I was traveling. I didn't have it secured, and it shattered on the stage that we were doing the broadcast. And Robert casually goes back to his bag and just grabs another one. So thank you for that, Robert.
Hey, no problem. It's like I walked up there, and he goes, we hate to have to ask you. And I'm looking down, there's like little pieces of glass and little bits of sand. Because I kind of dropped it. I go, well, I got one more. I'll go get it. Yeah.
If I write a book one day, I'll send you a free copy. How about that?
Oh, that's perfect. Love it.
So how about Scot Violette? How did you two come together?
It's interesting because I haven't known Scott for that long, but I really enjoyed our meeting. The first time I met him, I was invited to the Beachfoot. I think it was 2023. Yeah, 2023. I was invited to Beachfoot. I was a guest speaker, and it was just like I talked about it. I thought about going there, but I never got around to it. But Kip Morrill goes, "Hey, Robert, what are you doing on this date? How would you like to come up and be one of our speakers?" I said, "Sure did." So I got talked into it. So I went up there to be the speaker, and Scott was also one of the speakers, and I didn't know who he was yet, but I got a chance to meet him, and I really enjoyed it. Hannah and Scott, very open, very warm, and into archaeology, and we got a nice conversation going, because in between all the work episodes of showing up and talking to people and things, we got to talking, and I found out that, well, we're kind of Cajun brothers, not really directly brothers, but he comes from Cajun ancestry, with Acadian ancestry on his dad's side, and I come from Cajun ancestry on my mom's side, so it was kind of funny we had that in common.
And so you were involved in the Bluff Creek Project, which, I mean, before you ever met Scott had talked to me about the Patterson-Gimlin film, and in fact, we'll hear a clip later in the show about him talking about the Patterson-Gimlin film, which is one of the things that got him involved in Bigfoot research. You being involved in the Bluff Creek Project also have a fascination with the Patterson-Gimlin film and this site, so you guys shared that connection as well.
Yeah, it was kind of neat because I got a chance to. Archaeology is his favorite thing. One of his things, he spends a lot of time at that and searching for Bigfoot. And I think he got a thesis or something in archaeology on one of the things he's working at on his doctorate. But it was great listening to his stories and all he had. And I appreciate his sense of humor because I'm not that funny of a guy. That's what my wife tells me.
No, you're hilarious. That's the thing, Robert, is you don't realize it, but you're hilarious. I mean, I've talked to you in person and even off the air, and it's very, very subtle. But no, you may have a future career as a comedian one day.
Yeah, stand up or I'll stand out.
That's what I mean.
He would laugh a lot. He would laugh a lot. It kind of makes you feel good when you talk to somebody and you say something that's kind of funny and they laugh. And so I really enjoyed that in the conversations. And also at Beachfoot, I'm also with the Bluff Creek Project, so we were looking for podcasts too. And the thing I was doing was a thing called In the Field. So we'd interview people in the field. So on the last day before everybody's packing up, so we walked across the big open grassy area and sat down, and I interviewed them, and that was pretty cool. It was about an hour's worth of talking. And we're in between talks. We've got dogs barking and things moving around. But I really enjoyed learning more about him and what motivated him and his projects. And it's like when you meet people, you spend some time with them, you kind of get to know them. I'm kind of a people person, so I like to ask questions and talk about, different things. And you never think that once you meet somebody that you hit it off really well, but for paths to cross again, sometimes in the Bigfoot world, it happens a lot, but being from geographic different areas, it happens less. So as you meet people, you enjoy them, and you exchange numbers and handshake. And it's like, well, will you ever see these people again? And when will you see them again? And I didn't think much of it. I just thought it was kind of cool. I love Hannah. She's out there doing yoga. It's like, I don't see that many people in Bigfoot outings sitting out there on their blanket doing yoga. So it was kind of cool.
Yeah.
And they work together as a team. And it's not just Scott, it's Hannah and Scott. And they have their I guess I call it a podcast. They actually invited me on the podcast a few months after Beachfoot was all done. So I got to go on the podcast. And I can't always remember the name of it, so I have to write it down to remember it. Yeah, and I wrote it down in my little notes here. It was an evening in the paddy wagon, unveiling Bigfoot mysteries, and I guess that was their show. They did a lot of that. So go look it up.
Give that some more views, because I think hopefully they have that thing monetized and we can send all that money to Hannah. So go watch that episode, because not only does it have Scott and Hannah, but it's got Robert Leiterman on there.
Yeah, that was a lot of fun. And then it kind of caught me off guard, because this is well before the Baker City event, the Blue Mountain Bigfoot Festival.
2024.
So I got an invitation. Yeah, so that event was 2024. This is Beachfoot in June of 2023. And then I get on their podcast. I think it was in January of 2024. And next thing you know is, hey, how would you like to be a speaker at this event? We kind of got involved with the Blue Mountain Bigfoot Festival. Yeah, I go, well, where's it going to be? They go, it's going to be in Oregon, Northeast Oregon. And I go, well, we'll see. So I thought about it. And I took my son with me, so he could keep me awake while I'm driving down there. But it was just like, let's do it. So that was fun, because I got to know him more. As a matter of fact, that's where I got to meet you. And if you remember, when the nighttime dinner, we're sitting there at the table, and I spilled your wife's water. Not only on the table, but I think I spilled it on her too. I kind of bumped the glass or whatever. And
you were starstruck.
What a great introduction. Yeah, I want to again apologize for that.
My wife does that. She has that. No, I'm just kidding, Robert. It is all good. It was such a pleasure for us to sit there at the table with you and with Scott, and I don't think Tom was yet with us that night, but I will always remember that, and we will always remember Scott. So any final words?
I do. It's like the last few days, it's like I remember Scott and was having some trouble, and he got on the internet, Facebook, and he was having trouble, and Hannah was explaining things. And that I think I was about a week before he passed, and I was pretty much looking through the Facebook, and then this thing pops up and said he had passed away, and I just felt the whole insides just kind of get tight. It's just like, is this a joke? Is this serious? But I'm definitely going to miss him a lot, and it was kind of weird. Sometimes I know we talked before about telling a weird story or not, but it's almost like I had this weird feeling on the evidently ended up being the night he passed away. Something just didn't sit right. And then on the next day, I heard he passed away. And then on the following day, she mentioned that he had passed away on the night when I wasn't feeling too good. So I don't know what's synchronicity or whatever. I left out a bunch of other stuff, but that's kind of weird. And it's like we didn't talk a lot, but I really enjoyed being with him. And the funny thing is, I'll leave it with this, is a few days go by, and people start putting pictures up. And one of the pictures that Hannah put up was the one where he's kind of squinching down because I'm not very tall, and he's pretty good height. So he's squinching down. He's writing his name on the wall at the North American Bigfoot Museum, Boring, Oregon. And I'm looking at that. I go, wait a minute. So I blew it up, the picture. He's signing the wall right under my signature. And
Amazing.
I just thought that was crazy. And right above my signature is Bobcat Goldwith's signature.
Absolutely.
And I said, I'll sign under Bobcat.
Great company is what he's saying. Robert, thanks so much for helping us pay tribute to Scot Violette tonight.
Thank you for the opportunity. Appreciate it.
Absolutely. More to come, somewhere between the paranormal and the abnormal. Dang it, we ran out of time when we were live on the air, and sometimes the best conversations happen when we're off the air. And I was just telling Robert, how much Scott personally meant to me and about the conversations we've had over the years, and that I'm glad I got an opportunity to, talk with him a final time as we honored Dr. Jeff Meldrum. Sometimes we don't always get that opportunity, do we, Robert?
We don't. It's one thing. It's like you think about it, but you don't think about it. Don't wait to tell people how you feel about them. Don't wait. Don't push off projects you want to get done, because time is so short and that clock is ticking. And if you have something to say to somebody, say it, because you might not get another chance to say it, and they definitely need to hear it.
Amen to that.
Yeah, it was great. He actually took me. I'm flashing back to after the Blue Mountain Bigfoot Festival, because after the festival was all over, he, Hannah, John, I was supposed to meet Jonathan easily up there, but I didn't get a chance to do that. But Peggy, Thomas, so we kind of carpooled. Thomas, Seward, and Peggy, and Scott and Hannah, and then I had my son with me. So we carpooled all the way over to the site in the Blue Mountains, the Paul Freeman site. And that was so cool because they stopped at a place that Scott had been going to for years, and he showed me some casts on the wall. It says some of the original casts, and it was and we from there we went all the way over to the site, and we drove up this road. We got out of the car, and there's a bathroom. We could go to the bathroom. He goes, "This is the place. This is the pond where the photo was taken, where the tracks were. The movie footage is just over here." So we walked past around. He's talking about it. We walked within 2 minutes. We were at the Freeman site, and I remember that spending that time with him. It's cool because I'd never been there. It was my first time, and I'm getting a rundown. Scott's telling me everything he knows, and then when he was done, I had Jonathan tell me everything what was going on there, and it was really cool. And again, that brings back another memory of my window here was so small, but it was these things that we did together and opportunities, and it just it builds this relationship. And I wasn't ready for it to be over so soon. And there's so much more I want to know about him, so much more I want to say to him. And I only known him for a couple of years, and I thought about calling him. I called a few times, but that not too much. It's like I liked him. I liked the relationship we had. I felt comfortable. He had stories. He had a lot of knowledge, and he made you feel comfortable.
I mean, I believe in life on the other side. I believe in the afterlife. I believe Scott's watching over us. I believe he probably has had an influence on some of our lives already from above. So since I believe Scott is listening to this program tonight, what would you like him to hear?
I want Scott to know that he made a difference in how I look at things. He made me open up a bit more. It's like realizing that you can have a great relationship with somebody you don't know that well. It's like then the doors open up, it's good to go. And his big thing was archaeology, looking into a lot of the native stories and stuff. He's got native ancestry. I got native ancestry. It's kind of funny. We both had native ancestry, and we both had Cajun ancestry. So we had a lot more in common than the average person would think right out of the chute. And he signed his name underneath mine, giving mine a great honor, and I appreciate that.
There he is, Robert Leiterman, on our tribute to Scot Violette.
Paranormal News, I'm George Henry. The third interstellar object ever discovered, which has been making all kinds of headlines over the past few months since its discovery, was in the firing line of the sun last week. A blast of plasma and magnetic field known as a coronal mass ejection was unleashed straight at 3I Atlas. It's largely believed to be a comet, and while comets have previously collided with the sun's plasma, this one is rare because it originated outside the solar system. 3I Atlas became extremely bright last month as it approached its closest point to the sun and was exposed to far more solar radiation. That is expected in late October, but first it's expected to pass by Mars next week. After it passes the sun, it will reappear by early December. 3I Atlas is not expected to pose a threat to Earth, though. Hear paranormal news every hour on Into the Paranormal.
Of a secret dungeon somewhere deep in the remote Pacific Northwest. You're traveling into the paranormal with Jeremy Scott.
Yeah, sometimes that's how it goes. You got those Bigfoot blues. You know, you're just out there searching for Squatch and you ain't finding nothing. I mean, that was pretty much every time but the one or two times that Scott found Bigfoot or saw Bigfoot. Just be prepared if you want to find one of these. You've got to spend a lot of time out in the woods. Our tribute to Scot Violette of Squatch America continues tonight. Hi, who do we have here?
Hi, Jeremy. It's Shane Corson with the Olympic Project.
Hi, Shane. How are you? It's so good to hear your voice. Sad under these circumstances, but I remember Scott had actually invited you to the second Blue Mountain Bigfoot Festival, which was delayed 3 years due to the pandemic. But I was all excited because our paths had previously crossed. We had done a show. Actually, you were on broadcast with Dr. Meldrum. The entire Olympic project was. And I think I had come across you at the Oregon Bigfoot Festival as well, maybe back in 2018 or 2019. And then so I was really excited once 2020 came along that we were going to have the opportunity to appear together at the Blue Mountain Bigfoot Festival. And it never came to be, sadly.
Yeah, unfortunately not. You know, COVID came around and ruined us getting a chance to meet up again. But yeah, sad times, as you said. I'm doing well, but sad times. Scott was a good man, and we're going to miss him.
And so I'm just interested in how you came to know Scott.
Yeah, I had some correspondence prior to 2019 with Scott, but I actually met Scot Violette down in Cave Junction, Oregon at another event. We were both scheduled to be speakers there, and I got to meet his wife, Hannah, and hang out with them and share the stage with him. I got to really get to know him, his research, his findings, and I mean, overall, we just really hit it off. Just hit it off really well.
What was your final interaction with Scott?
Yeah, that's it's actually really sad. So obviously, as you know, Jeremy, that we recently lost the great Dr. Jeffrey Meldrum, who was also a great friend and somebody I looked up to hugely. And so when Jeff had passed away, I decided to kind of put together like a video memorial that I could play and to keep Jeff's legacy going and share what the impact he had on others. And so I knew Scott had quite a lot of collaboration with Dr. Meldrum and been around him a lot. And so I reached out to Scott, on the 18th of September, and Scott sent me this really, really good video. It's about 2 minutes long or so of his thoughts and experiences with Jeff. And he sent that to me on the 20th. Well, a few days later, found out that Scott indeed himself had passed away.
All right, so let's hear what Scott had to say.
I first met Jeff in 2013 at the Boise City Comic-Con. I was there performing as a stage magician, and he was there speaking, and he had a booth. I showed up like a fanboy. I brought his book for him to sign, and I felt like I met a hero that day. Years later, when I launched Blue Mountain Bigfoot Research, I organized the first Blue Mountain Bigfoot Festival in 2019. Money was tight. I could only afford one big-name guest, and at the top of my list was Dr. Meldrum. To make it happen, I sold my camp trailer. It was a sacrifice I never regretted. Jeff not only came, but he welcomed me into the Bigfoot research community as one of his own. He told me I was his go-to guy for the Blue Mountains, and that meant the world to me. As my group grew and we became Squatch America, I had the privilege of sharing the stage with Jeff at festivals all over the country. We built a friendship. He often asked me about my own discoveries, and we would dive into conversations about Native American pictographs and petroglyphs, an area where he respected my work. I remember that Jeff, for all his stature, never stopped learning and never stopped listening. What truly set him apart wasn't just his academic brilliance, it was his humanity. He respected people's stories. He spoke honestly, with kindness and integrity. I will miss him deeply. He was taken too soon. But his wisdom and his courage will continue to shape the Bigfoot research community for generations to come. Thank you, Jeff.
I almost feel like we could echo those same words about Scott. What do you say, Shane?
Yeah, you nailed it there. I mean, just the timing of it all is just mental to me, and absolutely, I can mirror that. And Scott brought so much to the table when it came to Sasquatch research. He was very innovative, methodical, very sound of mind. He had a lot of compelling things, and he still had a bright future of stuff that he could bring to the table in his endeavors. But more than that, Scott was a patriot, a veteran, a deeply devout Christian, and just a special soul that had an amazing wife in Hannah, just a beautiful couple that when you were around them, it would just make you smile. And I'll tell you, got to know Scott really well over the years, and I could call him a friend, and he'd be there. So I'm really going to miss him.
Likewise. And Shane, I know it's going to mean a lot to Hannah and to Scott, who's listening in tonight from above, to hear the words that you've said tonight. So we so appreciate you coming on this tribute to Scot Violette.
Thank you so much for having me on. I really appreciate it.
Absolutely. Of the Olympic Project, Shane Corson with us tonight, somewhere between the paranormal and the abnormal.
Into the paranormal.
I will say I've become a master of the clock over the years, doing more than 800 episodes of this program. But I know it's so hard to get individuals, especially when you're summing up someone's life, to talk in such short bursts. So I'm just going to warn you, there will be extra parts of this show that will not make air. So if you're listening on the radio side or the streaming side, you'll want to get the podcast, which of course is free, will be free on all of the apps at our website so that you get the full meal deal. Everybody has so much to say about the man that we loved so much and are paying tribute to tonight, Scot Violette of Squatch America. So we're going to continue along those lines, and we'll have this next person joining us introduce themselves. Hi, welcome to the show.
Hello, this is Tobe Johnson. Hello, Jeremy.
Tobe Johnson, Al Moon Lab and Olympic Strange Days.
I appreciate that. Yeah. Hey, thanks for putting all this together here. It's without question, my condolences and prayers to the Violette family, Hannah especially, who was, caught off guard with, a drastic health change with Scott. And I just wanted to come on to say a few words about what, my experience knowing them as friends and as colleagues out here looking into this wooded mystery that is Bigfoot. And I guess that's where we should start, is that I met Hannah and Scott through their love of the retirement phase of their life, traveling the United States, looking into this mystery of Bigfoot. And I think it was probably about 2021 timeframe when I met them, maybe sometime around 2019-20, and they were vendors at the Yakima Bigfoot Roundup, I believe it was called. And they were right next to me at a vendor table, and we just kind of hit it off, especially Hannah and I got pretty chatty about the stranger parts of Sasquatch.
That's easy to do with Hannah.
Yeah, and so Hannah and I took off running, and then Scott and I started talking about some of the questions that he had about the stranger aspects of this stuff, and they're just really sweet, open-minded, very dedicated couple, and they took their research really seriously as a husband and wife, and they're really disciplined about getting to locations and gathering evidence, and in particular their YouTube show, where they delved almost every week into something that had to do with gathering evidence or a location. And then they approached me to come on their show once a month, and I thought that was really, that was really interesting offer, because I could tell that I was kind of going down, a stranger side of the phenomena compared to where Scott was at, especially. And maybe it was at the prompting of Hannah more so. I don't really know, but I just said, sure, I'll come on once a month, and I will be like the resident weirdo for you guys to maybe poke at. And
to get more into the woo-woo side of things?
Oh, yeah, absolutely. And they're, it's all in good fun with both of them. They love to have a good laugh on the show. And so that went on for a period of like 4 or 5 months, I believe. And then stuff just kind of happened as far as our schedule is concerned. But, my experience with them, I wish all of my Bigfoot experiences were like the ones I had with Scott and Hannah, especially since they were they're a couple in love, right? Like, that's really rare to see a couple in love still after all these years. And I think they'd been married for a pretty good long while at the point when I met them, and they still had that little bit of spark together where they would kind of let you join into the feisty nature of their relationship, which was all in good fun. Because
yes,
Hannah certainly knew how to push his buttons and vice versa. And that to me is just like.
But Scott was so respectful in every encounter that I ever witnessed him in.
Absolutely, yeah, he certainly was, and he always kind of had, he's a military guy. He always kind of had military bearings, and Scott or Hannah was. A little bit more of is a little bit more of a wild card than Scott was. And that was, the perfect balance. And so that's the way the YouTube show went when we did it. We had that kind of personality going across, all ways. And they will, Scott will be missed. I almost say they will be missed because I never saw them alone, right? Like this is what's so horrible about what happened is that they were so close that they kind of filled in the gap for one another. And I can't believe we're here with this podcast even discussing this right now because they're just so damn close. But,
well, I mean, speak of not only the loss of Scot Violette, but compound that with the loss of Dr. Jeff Meldrum, both of them together in less than 2 weeks. What a blow to the Bigfoot community.
Horrible blow. And, as I made a post, it really is almost like God's calling all the good ones back early. And, Scott was one of the good ones. And, those guys, they know all the secrets now, like their whole thing was looking into this wooded mystery and now they know. And, for them, that may be a little bit of sigh of relief because they really both equally cherished this mystery. And I would imagine Scott probably looked up to Jeff quite a bit. And to have Jeff pass away less than a week before or 2 weeks before Scott did, I can't imagine how that made him feel on top of getting the medical diagnosis he got from the VA, just crushing stuff. But, right before, I do have to say this because it kind of involves the foot morphology that Jeff was so close in looking into.
Yeah.
There's a couple anecdotal stories I could tell about Jeff here as well, if you want to hear those. But in short, Scott and Hannah rescued a missing footprint from the Al Moon lab. And the way they did that is that there was a footprint that was on loan to a haunted hotel called the Wolf Creek Inn down in Southern Oregon. And the manager, the owners, had the business closed. And so my footprint was on loan to this hotel, and it was in the museum piece of down in the gift shop, and it basically just said local Bigfoot track from Cottage Grove, Oregon, size 15, whatever the parameters were. And the idea was that people come down and appreciate the fact that this is a real phenomenon. And it's kind of local, less than an hour and a half up the road or an hour or something. Anyway, once the business folded, I had no idea where the track went, and I tried to find it, It turns out that Hannah and Scott somehow had got a hold of the original track. And so about a month ago, I found out that they actually had the track, and they were nice enough to mail it back to me.
Oh, wow.
And so that was the last move that I got, was from Scott rescuing, a Tobe Johnson track from Cottage Grove. And I'll be damned if these guys didn't find more Bigfoot tracks in Cottage Grove in or near the area of a site called the London Trackway in the Cottage Grove lake bed circa 2012. It was Scott and Hannah that responded to the Army Corps engineers about 3 years ago that contacted them after they saw their booth at an outdoor show, I believe at the Lane County Fairgrounds. And they grabbed their business card. Somehow some employee maybe on his break or had the day off from the Army Corps engineers, which is the Cottage Grove Lake story and the London tracks, they were called, circa 2012, was kind of a big historical moment. And a lot of people were wondering whether or not this trackway was real or not. However, when Scott and Hannah found these brand new set of tracks that were reported with a pretty good provenance and paper trail through the Army Corps engineers, it was Scott and Hannah, in particularly Scott, who not only cast these new London tracks, but found out that, in his opinion, that he thought they were most likely authentic tracks. And so it just added a new layer to something that I was involved with way back in 2012. And I couldn't have done that without Scott and Hannah, picking up the call, driving all the way down to Oregon, doing what you do, which is pretty much drop everything and going to these areas, sometimes very remote, and doing the hard work. So they were the real deal. And maybe that's part of the reason that I agreed to do their show, is that they not only were a really sweet couple, but they were the real thing. Like they really did research. And so that was an amazing story that I wanted to share.
And we appreciate you doing so. Tobe, thank you so much for coming on and sharing some words about Scot Violette.
All right. Thanks so much, Jeremy.
And you mentioned earlier, Tobe mentioned earlier about he's pretty sure that Dr. Meldrum had an impact on Scott's research. You bet he did.
It was monumental, actually. It goes clear back to like when the Freeman film was happening. Dr. Jeff was the first one to actually just randomly walk up and knock on the door of Paul Freeman and say, "I heard you found some tracks." And Paul Freeman said, "Well, come with me and I'll show them to you." That goes way back in the early 90s.
So what were some of your interactions like with Dr. Meldrum through the years?
Oh, they were actually pretty fantastic. Years ago, I used to be a steampunk stage magician. And the first time I met Dr. Jeff Meldrum was, I think, 2013 in Boise, Idaho at the Boise Comic-Con. And a lot of people didn't know he did more than just Bigfoot festivals. He had actually booked a booth at the Comic-Con that year, and I was performing there. And then it was the first time I ever heard him talk on stage and meet him face to face. And I actually had my copy. I knew he was going to be there, so I had my copy of his book, and I was like the typical fanboy at that point. It's like, oh my gosh, there he is, and I got to meet him and talk with him for a while at his booth, and that was the first time I actually met him in person. And then he was gracious enough a few years later to come to our first ever Blue Mountain Bigfoot Festival. I contacted him, and one of the neatest things that ever happened with me and Dr. Jeff was the fact that after meeting him, and I had messaged him back and forth over the years, he's one of the first people in the Bigfoot world to actually kind of embrace me and pull me into the group. Basically, he was very inviting. It really kind of shocked me that someone who was kind of that big in the Bigfoot world would just kind of take me under his wing and treat me like one of his own, one of the Bigfoot people early on. And that really was a big part of me starting Squatch America and going into this Bigfoot research thing full time.
So now we have to keep this going in honor of Dr. Jeff Meldrum.
Absolutely.
And so here's to keep on squatching in memory of both Dr. Jeff Meldrum and Scot Violette. We'll continue our tribute to Scot Violette of Squatch America somewhere between the paranormal and the abnormal. I'm Jeremy Scott.
Show your support of Into the Paranormal by buying from the Paranormal store at paranormalradio.com.
Remembering Scot Violette tonight with his friends, those who knew him within the Bigfoot community and within his life. And I think we have one of those people on the line with us right now. Hi, who's this?
Kristi Sanders. How are you?
Kristi Sanders, how are you? It's been since 2019 since we've talked.
I know. Has it been that long? Holy cow.
Yeah, 6 years.
Yeah.
A little over, actually. Inside story, Kristi was out there at the first Blue Mountain Bigfoot Fest that Scott invited me to, and we made an all-night trip back. Scott made sure we had meal money. Very nice of him. I think we pulled off and stopped at Wendy's, if I remember it right. And we made the all-night trip back to Portland.
Yeah,
that's what I remember after a long day out there at the Blue Mountain Bigfoot Festival. How have you been?
Oh, good. I've been good. Super busy. Lots of festivals, lots of work.
So you are a fellow Bigfooter? You share that passion with Scott?
Yeah, I sort of fell into it, which is how I met Scott. I was watching Monster Quest and saw an episode, and I was stunned that there was this big creature in the Pacific Northwest. And since I'm a hunter and I spend time in the woods, I actually started looking and finding prints and hearing howls and seeing the tree structures. And anyway, I had a very momentous event occur. And because I'd seen this thing on TV, I thought, well, there's got to be a reporting thing. So I reach out, and that's how I met Scott. I was trying to report the tracks that I had found and get them to an official, which actually turned out to be Jeff Meldrum. And Scott and I got to know each other, and he's like, you, with all the time you spend in the woods, you should help me with this Squatch America. I said, absolutely, I totally will. So I would take his reports and follow him up. I'd done stuff with BFRO before, so I knew how to be scientific about it. And Scott was such a good guy. Holy crap. He was so scientific and funny and friendly. I instantly clicked with him. He was such a great guy.
Again, sharing a love over a search for something that, science largely doesn't recognize. But, I mean, there's no doubt in your mind. There was no doubt in his mind. And I really don't think there's a doubt in Hannah's mind either. She is vowed to keep this going on, which indicates that she must be a believer as well.
That's right. And I remember when he got his first picture, because he had his telephoto lens, he sent it to me immediately when he got out of the force, and I was floored. And then when I got the pictures that I got of them, because I got a picture of a family of them, I had 22 pictures, I called him immediately. Because we had that connection. It wasn't gee, should I show somebody? It's like, oh my God, I got to show Scott. This guy was like, oh my God, I got to show Kristi. And the cool thing about his picture and my pictures, he called it the faces of Sasquatch. I believe the term he used was the morphology of the skeleton. Anyway, the faces, even though his was...
Okay, so I'm familiar with his. Did the one you see, the picture you have similar facial features, if we want to call them that?
Yes, the whole family. I mean, it just fit. And he actually took the faces from my photos, and he took the faces from his photos, and he lined them out. And then he pulled some other random faces from Patterson Gimlin, and he pulled some faces from another guy whose name escapes me, and he put them all in a string, and he's like, look at the similarities. It's kind of like when you look at humans. I mean, we're different, right? But we kind of have that, we look a certain way. And I was floored. I was like, oh my God.
And it would take somebody like Scott to be able to recognize that there was a pattern there.
Yeah, exactly. Yeah, it was so good. And I couldn't wait. And then I, rushed and showed Dr. Meldrum and showed him all the footprints and stuff. And yeah, Scott was great. Scott called me once. I travel for work. I work for a business consulting firm. And I was in Maine or something. And he called and says, when are you coming home? I said, 48 hours. And he said, somebody just called me. They're hunting. They're surrounded by Bigfoots, and they're screaming, I need you to go out there now. And I tried to catch the first plane out of there. I flew into Oregon. I went where Scott sent me. And sure enough, this hunting party had several nights of incidents. He actually put their phone call on the website. And while we were there, we found the footprints. We were doing measurings, and we were checking things. Something that was reddish orange was walking away from us. I didn't totally notice it. My stepdad goes, is that a deer? Is that a bear? I think that's a bear. That's totally not a bear. What is that? And he went running over there, and he watched it walk away. Now, again, I didn't see it, but he was floored because he absolutely doesn't believe, or didn't. He does now. He absolutely didn't believe in him. And so there's this thing walking away, and we found the footprints. And we measured the tree. It was 9.5 feet tall, where the top of its head was. But that was, Scott sent us out there. And I think he put that one on his website as well. I think he called it the 911 Bigfoot's Here call or something.
And let me guess, he was always so welcoming every time you reached out with information.
Oh, yeah. Yeah. I mean, sometimes I just call and go, you want to go camping? I was reading Bigfoot Highway. Let's go here. And he's like, okay, let's go there. I'm like, yay. Yeah, he was a good guy.
And those had to have been some good moments in the outdoors.
Oh, yeah, there was nothing cooler than taking that Bigfoot Highway book and going to some of the spots. Because there's also some that have drawings and they have GPS locations and going to the spots and seeing in the general area other Bigfoot sign. There's a drawing of one standing behind a stump, and we found the stump, and we're like, wow, this incident in this book happened right here. So he used to call me Bigfoot Highway Kristi.
What would you want to say to Scott and Hannah?
Oh, I love you guys so much. I wish I could have spoke to you before this happened. And Hannah, I'm there for you if you need anything. So
good to hear your voice once again after all these years. I remember it well, driving home, whatever it was, 5 or 6 hours on I-84, coming back late at night that June evening in 2019. And sad to do it under these circumstances, but I'm sure maybe somewhere along this Bigfoot road, as we call it, our paths may cross again. And who knows, you may be the one that finds Bigfoot one of these days. And then if that's the case, call me yelling and screaming, and I'll drop everything and get you on the program, okay?
That sounds awesome. Thank you so much. It was awesome talking to you.
Kristi Sanders with us here as we pay tribute to Scot Violette. More to come right after this.
There's a parallel universe, a veil that separates us from all we perceive. True reality. Open the gate, let the truth be known. It's more than meets the eye. We're not alone. Into the paranormal. Into the paranormal.
Hang on for the ride. You're headed into the Parabnormal.
I'm Jeremy Scott. Tonight we are paying tribute to our friend from Squatch America, Scot Violette. His wife Hannah will be joining us before the end of the program. We've heard from many of his friends and acquaintances, those who knew him, came across him in Bigfooting in the community, both out searching actively for Bigfoot or maybe along the trail somewhere, literally along the side of the road. They've stopped and talked to people as they pulled into campsites and to truck stops and convenience stores. That's what was so cool is they were, and I say they and were because we know that they were inseparable, Hannah and Scott, and certainly Hannah is still with us and will keep the squatching going on, but Scott is sadly departed us, and so we're remembering, how approachable, particularly Scott was, always willing to accept a Bigfoot story and even to tell one of his own, accompanied, of course, by a photographic, whether we want to call it evidence or not. Certainly there was something there. And along the way, he would talk with pretty much anybody. And I understand maybe a time or two he had been on another podcast, Sasquatch Watch Radio. We have the founder, Billy Willard, and its host, Garry Kendrick, with us. Good evening, guys.
How are you doing, Jeremy?
I'm doing great. How you both doing?
Doing wonderful.
So, both interested in Sasquatch, I take it?
Oh, yeah. Been a while, yes.
You've both seen Sasquatch, or you've just been interested enough to look for Sasquatch?
I'll let Garry handle that first.
I've actually had a sighting in 2006.
Okay. And what about you, Billy?
No, I have not ever had a sighting or anything I could claim to be a sighting. Yes, I've seen some strange things, but nothing that I can readily put my hands on and call Sasquatch.
But you've heard from people throughout the years who believe they have.
Oh yeah, absolutely. Because we also are part of a group that is ours. It's called Sasquatch Watch of Virginia, and we collect reports and that type of thing. So yeah, we have had lots of eyewitnesses come forward,
particularly with reports around the Virginia area.
Particularly in the Virginia area, yes, that's what we collect. But I've been all over. I've been all over the nation. To Washington State, Texas. I've been everywhere.
I think Scott and Hannah may have eventually made it to Virginia if they didn't already somewhere along their Bigfoot journeys. I don't know.
I wouldn't doubt it. I wouldn't doubt it.
I think their plan was to get to every single one of them, squatching.
Yeah,
that's what they wanted to do. Till the day they died, and Scott did that, and now Hannah can continue to do that in Scott's honor. So when did you first learn of Scot Violette, and when did you have him on the program?
I had him on the program roughly about 3 weeks ago. I had Scott on. I never really formally met Scott. I'd watched some of the videos and stuff that him and Hannah have put on, and they was working on, it was a location system. They call it the Holler Point. And I was really, really enthusiastic about that. It's some pretty intense technology, I think, that might actually do a lot of good in the Bigfoot community. But one thing I kind of want to touch on was, anybody that knew Scott knew that he wore his Desert Storm hat all the time.
Oh, yeah.
He was, a veteran, and he was very proud of it. And I'm also a Desert Storm veteran.
Oh, bless you.
And, speaking from the end of the veterans, I just want to say that if anybody's out there and that you're listening to this and you're a veteran, continue to fight. Get what you deserve. Don't quit. A lot of veterans get disappointed and, they stop and, they don't really get what they deserve. But that's the thing. You never stop fighting. Try to get what you deserve.
And Scott fought all the way to the very end.
Yes, he did.
As
and
we're hearing.
It's very admirable. We have a lot of vets that give up. We lose 22 veterans a day to suicide. But that's the big thing. I have been in the exact same shoes that Scott has. I'm sure me and him chewed a whole lot of the same ground back in the day. Scott was in the Army and I was a United States Marine, but, it's all in the service of the country. And, anyone that serves deserves more than what they get.
Well, we're all Americans, and that's why they had to, they were Squatch Americans.
That's right.
Cans, not cannots. Billy, your thoughts about Scott?
Well, I've known about Scott and Hannah for a while. I mean, obviously they've had their Squatch America channel for quite some time. Him and I had never met personally. I'd never run into him in any kind of conferences or anything like that. That's usually how I made my rounds, but never recalled running into him. But I do know one of the things I was really impressed with Scott and Hannah is how they stuck together and worked together. And I thought that was very impressive that husband and wife can work together in this. The reason I say that is because my wife don't want nothing to do with Bigfoot. So it was very impressive to me that him and her were both in this together. So I think that's a very wonderful thing.
Yeah, it is.
So how did it come to be you wrote a song about Scott?
Well, since Garry had just had him on the show, we had originally wrote him a much happier, upbeat song for the show, and then when that, of course, that happened right after Meldrum. I had wrote a tribute song for Meldrum, and then got total shock finding out that someone that Garry had just had on the show passed away. And I listened to the show every time Garry does it. I do go back and listen, and he was just such a great gentleman, and you don't find that much. You find a lot of people that just want attention, And so I felt the urge to really write a song based on his life, his upbringing, his tried to put a little bit of everything in there about his life in the song, and mainly I did it for Hannah because it's just something that comes from the heart. It's just something that I like to do.
Garry and Billy have graciously allowed us to play that for you here tonight.
He searched the shadows, he walked the trail with a hopeful heart and a gripping tale. He brought a kindness and a gentle grace to every person in every place. A real friend, a guiding hand, the best you could have in this big green land. His spirit echoes through the mountain and air. A love for the wild, a love to share. Oh, Scott and Hannah, an inspiration to us all. Standing tall, answering the call. A search for a legend, a passion they share. A love for the wild beyond all compare. He will be missed by friends and by his family. A life well lived for the world to see. From Sasquatch Watch Radio, we send our plea to Hannah and his family. Our thoughts and our prayers, a gentle hand. We're here for you in this grieving land. Yeah, we're here for you in every way. We're here for you from this day to the next day.
That's from Sasquatch Watch Radio, and we'll post the link up for those who want to share that around. It's up on YouTube, so you can go ahead and share that away. You just go to our website, and you'll find that link, or I'm sure you can find it by going to their page as well. Guys, really appreciate you coming on the program and helping us pay tribute to Scot Violette tonight.
All right, we appreciate it.
Yeah, I appreciate you very much.
Remembering Scot Violette tonight. We'll be back.
Into the paranormal.
I'm Jeremy Scott, somewhere between the paranormal and the abnormal. I'm looking at Scott's book right now, Squatch America Investigating the Unexplained, a researcher's journey into the Bigfoot mystery, and I see that the foreword is written by Mark Myrsell, who is author of Mountain Devil, the 1924 Ape Canyon attack and its aftermath. And we have Mark on the program now. Hi, Mark.
Hey, Jeremy. How are you doing? Thanks so much for having me on.
It's my pleasure here. Now, this will be the first time we've had a chance to speak, so you and Scott have obviously, your paths have crossed at some point along this Bigfoot road. How long have you been investigating this?
I've been involved, seriously involved, probably since the year 2011, 2010, starting with researching the 1924 Ape Canyon attack on Mount St. Helens. And one thing that Scott and I shared and talked about a lot is the huge amount of common friends in the whole Bigfoot research community and how much we are trying to help each other out. And because of that and the friends I've made, they've given me lots of leads on a whole bunch of other historical Bigfoot research projects that I'm probably going to be keeping on doing until I'm dead.
You believe that there's something out there?
Oh, no, absolutely. The phenomenon is absolutely real. For me, personally, I tend to fall into the flesh and blood camp of a North American wood ape. frankly, a wood ape from all around the world, nearly. But that being said, there are other people who fall into other camps, say interdimensional being or something like that. And I think that one thing that we need to remember in the Bigfoot world is that we all need to stick together. We certainly don't need any more division of calling names to other researchers or discounting their information, because even if you don't fall into, say, a flesh and blood camp, there's some sort of scintilla of truth about what the other person is saying. And to discount them as, say, woo or whatever, and throw out all their information, you're kind of throwing the baby out with the bathwater. I think that everybody's stories and everybody's research needs to be taken into account, frankly.
Okay, so the 1924 Ape Canyon attack is probably one of the earliest reports from the Pacific Northwest?
Probably. Certainly the most famous. The reason being is because directly after the attack, I mean, literally within 2 days after the attack, it hit the local newspapers in Kelso Longview. And at that time, we had the Associated Press wire. So the story spread like wildfire pretty much all over the United States, all over the western United States, being carried in other newspapers for a good 2 or 3 months. So that's what made it one of the most famous. However, there are plenty of other interesting older stories dating back, of course, into the 1880s, as far as what is documented and published, not to say the stories that are continued on, that carry on from, say, old stories or old-time stories that have been told by our local Native American nations for thousands of years.
Okay, so you have heard reports going back well before this.
Oh, actually, yeah. One research project that I'm working on right now down in Curry County, Southwest Oregon, started about 1876.
Interesting.
Yep.
So when was the first time that you heard of Scot Violette, came across Scot Violette, met him, that sort of thing?
Well, with Scot Violette and of course, Hannah, his wife, they were always a team for Squatch America, and I met them both at the same time. And I don't think that I ever hung out with Scott without Hannah being there as well. I believe the first time that we came across each other, I believe was probably at Squatch Fest in Kelso, Longview, Washington, and Hannah and Scott and I became the best of friends. Real obvious camaraderie between us. We were folks who kind of thought along the same lines.
Well, Mark, I really appreciate you coming on the program and helping us honor the life of the late Scot Violette. Really means a lot to us.
Heck yeah, anytime, Jeremy. Thanks so much.
All right, my pleasure. One thing I learned from Scott, because I'm generally impatient, is that it does take patience if you want to have a Bigfoot sighting. In fact, he talked to me about exactly that, to give you an idea of how long it took before he had his first Bigfoot encounter.
I actually got a picture last year in April up here in the Blue Mountains. Me and another gentleman that I took out in the woods with me that day, we saw one, and I got a picture of it. And of course, it's one of those blurry Bigfoot pictures that you can't take as evidence, and I don't present it as evidence, but I did have my own experience after 25 plus years looking in the woods for this. I finally ran across one.
Yeah, 25 years. Well, he talked about that gentleman he took out that day. We have that gentleman here. Hi, who is this?
This is Don Endicott.
Don Endicott from Oregon, right?
Yes, Baker City, Oregon.
Baker City, Oregon, out there near the Blue Mountains, which is when you and Scott had your Bigfoot sighting about 7 years ago, right?
Yes, that is correct.
Now, when we say sighting, was there more than one?
Yes, there was two.
Two creatures, one sighting. Right?
Yes.
So tell us how this came to be. Had you always wanted to go out looking for Bigfoot or what?
Yes, I had. had always been interested in it, and my stepdaughter knew this, and it became right around Father's Day, and she thought that would be a great idea that she knew Scott's wife, Hannah, and she got together with her and set it up as a Father's Day present to me and decided to have me go out with him. So it was great. And I got with Scott, and we went, he took me out, and lo and behold, it was very close to town. I'd been up in this area, up here in the Blue Mountains, most of my life, and I had no clue that they were up in that area. And we were walking down the road, and this old logging road, and all of a sudden, we both smelt this god-awful smell, and we both stopped in foot tracks and just looked at each other and started looking around, and we didn't see anything, so we just started, just continued looking around, and I looked down over the bank, and down in that area, I just saw something funny down in there, in these clump of trees and bushes, and I sort of looked at him, and I says, is that a face down in there? And he kept taking pictures and everything, and we didn't know. We kept looking, and all that. And next day we got back to town, and he called me up, or he sent me a text with pictures, and sure enough, there was 2 Bigfoots in that picture. Or started out there was only 1, but after a while he met some people. Jesus, I can't remember his last name. We met him down in New Mexico, and he got that picture blown up, and there was actually 2 of them in that picture. And we actually found footprints when we were up there, too, that day. And that was a very exciting day for me. I just could not believe my first time ever going out Bigfoot hunting, and lo and behold, we found them.
Oh. So, Don, you're a Bigfoot believer now.
Yes, I am.
It took that one encounter. You were very lucky to have that one encounter that Scott had been waiting 25 years for, and he takes you out, and you have it. You're a very lucky guy.
Yes, I am. And it was all thanks to Scott.
Yeah. So any words that you'd like to share with us about him?
Yes. Scott was a very exceptional person. He believed in what he was doing. I've never met anybody like him before in my life, and I probably never will. He was one of a kind. I will definitely miss him. He was a brother, an elk. He belonged to the Elks Lodge, and he spread word about that anywhere he went. He was just an exceptional, very nice person, and he will be missed.
Yeah. Well, Don, we really appreciate you coming on and sharing some words with us about Scot Violette.
Yes, I'm glad you had me on.
All right, that's Don Endicott, who had a Bigfoot encounter, Scott's only Bigfoot encounter after 25 years. All right, friends, Hannah Violette will join us coming up next on the program, wife of the late Scot Violette. Don't go anywhere. Somewhere between the paranormal and the abnormal. I'm Jeremy Scott. Into the Parabnormal.
Parabnormal News, I'm George Henry. We have an update on the fireball that lit up the skies across California last week. People in several cities separated by hundreds of miles saw a long, fiery trail of debris that split into pieces. The American Meteor Society received more than 200 reports from witnesses from around Sacramento and the Bay Area and as far south as Los Angeles. It has been confirmed to be space debris. Amateur astronomers identified the object as a SpaceX Starlink satellite that launched in 2020 and re-entered Earth's atmosphere. There have not been any reports of damage or debris recovered. Hear paranormal news every hour on Into the Parabnormal.
to land somewhere into the paranormal.
So I guess we're going to end with you keep watching.
We'll keep squatching.
And go out and find Bigfoot.
I'm Jeremy Scott. It's our tribute to Scot Violette of Squatch America tonight. The words that have been spoken on the air have been powerful tonight, and so honored now that we turn to Hannah Violette, the missus. We always call you the better half, and certainly how us guys think about the females in our life, whether we say it or not. You are our better half, so let's welcome the better half of the Violettes to the program.
Hi, Jeremy.
Hannah, it is very, very moving for me to hear what everybody has said about your late husband on the air tonight. Did you have any idea that he was this well loved?
I knew he was far more respected and considered than he thought he was, but I had no idea just how. And I'm probably gonna cry.
It's okay.
I had no idea just how much and how broad and how wide. I had no idea. I'm not the kind of person that pays attention to what people think of me. I really don't care. I don't keep my eyes on that. But no, I had no idea it was like this. None at all.
And you've heard it from people who have reached out and spoken words to you. They've written songs to you, and they've opened up their hearts. They've opened up their pocketbooks, and they've donated to help you get back on your feet. It really has been a sign of humanity coming together for someone that we so loved and respected.
Yes, it has been. And it may have renewed my faith in something larger than we are.
Mm-hmm. So what happens here? I mean, with Squatch America and with Scott, with his legacy, as he had told us in his final video, it just because he was going to be confined to a wheelchair, it doesn't define who he is. Doesn't change who he is. It doesn't change what Squatch America is about. You were just going to have to regroup and do things differently, and we didn't know that was going to come so quickly. But now that you've had a little bit of time to reflect, what happens with Squatch America?
I'm still thinking about that. We will go forward somehow, but what I have told our closest Squatch Americans is that when I get settled, when the dust settles, when we get back to Boise and I've had some time to process and kind of regroup, I'm going to call a meeting of the Squatch Americans, and we're going to figure this out together. Because that's what he would have wanted.
Well, Hannah, I don't know if you know this, but I do get out to the Boise area a couple of times a year, so you just let me know and I'll be there.
I will. I'll probably do something on Zoom or something like that, so that people can chime in from all over the country. But now that I'm kind of the one at the driver's seat, my own personality and my own values are probably going to start shining through a little more. But I want this to be more than just proving that Bigfoot exists, or even, how they live, which is what our focus was. I want this somehow to, and I don't know if I have all the right words, I want this somehow to honor his sacrifice. Because, it's in our name, Squatch America. And we he was such a devoted patriot.
Lived and died for his country.
And somehow I want Squatch America to reflect the values that he had for freedom and sovereignty, and so I'm still chewing on a lot of that. But one way or the other, Squatch America goes forward. I don't have the video and the YouTube skills and all that, so I don't know what it's going to look like, but that is why we need everyone who loved him and who wants to be a part of whatever movement this has been and is becoming. It's going to be on all of us to figure that out together. Does that make sense?
Yeah. Yeah, and it'll only happen with time.
Yep.
And time certainly will help us heal through this. I was so happy that he published his book earlier this year, and I made sure that I got one of the first copies. I have said so many times on this program, people who I've had on this program and others involved in research of Bigfoot and other phenomena never put what they know in writing. And, you know, this is now public. It's in print. It's published. And that meant so much to Scott, I know, to get that out, and to you as well, for him to get that out.
Yes. And it is something that that he had wanted to do for a long time, and as it was, because we had taken the year off from racing from festival to festival, he finally had time to sit and get it done. And I don't think that was an accident. I don't think any of this has been an accident. Even his death, although it was tragic, and you're talking to one pissed off widow, by the way. I am pissed off, and I will not let this go into, I will not let this go into the dark night gently. People will be hearing from me. Because he served his country, and his country did not serve him back.
Sad story that we've heard time and time again, sadly. Hannah Violette is with us tonight as we pay tribute to her late husband, Scot Violette. Bigfoot researcher, anthropologist, veteran, preacher, school teacher, stage magician, author, father, husband, friend. Yeah, I'm probably leaving a few out, but he was everything to everyone who knew him. We'll wrap up our conversation tonight with Hannah in just a moment.
Into the paranormal.
I'm Jeremy Scott, somewhere between the paranormal and the abnormal, as we remember Scot Violette of Squatch America. Scott joined me for the very first time on this program prior to the first Blue Mountain Bigfoot Festival. He actually invited me to do the radio show and moderate the town hall. But it was during our first conversation in March of that year, March of 2019, that we learned what set Scott out on this journey.
I'll tell you something about what kind of got me into this was the Patterson-Gimlin film. I was a young man, and I saw that in the theater as a newsreel back in the days in the late 60s when they used to do that. And I saw that, and I thought, wow, they are real. And so I spent most of my life out whenever I'm in the woods looking for them. And then later on, after studying anthropology, I have noticed things that are in that film that couldn't possibly have been faked in 1967. And there's the way it walks is not a human gait by any means. And of course, there's been thousands of people who analyzed that. And by looking up some of the things that have been analyzed, like the size and stuff, because they've been able to go back now and look at what lens he was using and be able to measure everything. And that thing was just a little over 8 feet tall, and there's no way a guy in a suit could have filled that. And so that was one piece of evidence that I found very credible. And then there's a couple footprint casts that's been taken over the years that I have found that couldn't have been faked either. One of them was the what's called the Bosberg track, Bosberg Cripplefoot, and it has Bigfoot tracks that were one foot was crippled, one foot was not. And if you were to lay the bone structure out in the crippled foot, it's an actual abnormality that humans have. And so this footprint was found, and as it stepped on different substrates and things, the foot would flex. So none of the footprints were the same. So we found 1,089 of those footprints in a row. So if that was fake, 1089, and so it was a flexible foot. And if it was faked, it was faked by a foot doctor 1,089 times. So,
and that's a lot of work to go to if you're trying to pull one over on someone.
Exactly. And then, of course, there's the Freeman film, which is another one which was taken right here in the Blue Mountains where I hang out. And there's a footprint cast that goes along with that was taken that actually had dermal ridges, had the fingerprints in it. And that had been analyzed by a police fingerprint expert and found those fingerprints not to be human. But he also checked primates and found that they weren't primates either. They were somewhere in between. So those three pieces of evidence, the Gimlin film and those two footprint tracks, has convinced me that these creatures are out there.
That's a Scot Violette. He was held in very high regard among his Bigfoot colleagues. We're talking with his wife, Hannah, here. And Hannah, you just posted a picture of quite an honor. It was your husband at the North American Bigfoot Center.
Yes. That's, of course, is Cliff Barrickman's Bigfoot Center. And Cliff has an old wooden door that has autographs of Bigfooters, of researchers that he holds in high esteem, and he invited Scott to sign it, and it just overwhelmed Scott that the Cliff Barrickman would invite him, Scot Violette from the Blue Mountains, who was a nobody among nobodies, to sign his door. And I always kept trying to tell Scott that you're not a nobody. But he could never perceive that. He always felt so unworthy.
Scott was in the process of developing some products to help in future generations of Bigfoot research.
Yes. He and our son have been hot on the development of, I'll probably get this wrong, but I'll do my best, a digital acoustic network that will not only record sounds in the woods, not only identify them, but also triangulate the position from where the sound came from. And do it all digitally over radio frequency using AI. And Scott was so passionate about getting this out there.
Yeah, actually very passionate.
Hello, I'm Scott from Squatch America. And you know our tagline? We investigate the unexplained. We don't explain the uninvestigated. For the past year, we've been building something big. The Holler Point Acoustic Network. Imagine a grid of smart microphones that can detect, log, and triangulate mysterious sounds in the wilderness. From wolves to Bigfoot. And pinpoint them within feet. This GoFundMe is to fund our first production run for beta testing. With your help, we can get these units into the hands of researchers, test them in the field, and prove how powerful this system really is. Every donation, big or small, helps us to bring this project to life. Thank you for being a part of Squatch America and helping make Holler Point a reality. Now, go out and find Bigfoot.
Hannah, Scott didn't just believe in Bigfoot. He knew Bigfoot exists, and he wants to find it with his development here.
Yes.
And so, as they say, stay tuned, right?
Right.
Well, Hannah, thank you for your courage to come forward and to speak out about the wrongdoings and to get justice for Scott. We respect you. We love you. And if you have any final words for the audience, we'd love you to share them now.
Well, I would just invite people to be part of this movement, Squatch America. And you can go to squatchamerica.com and sign up for the newsletter. Like I said, I'm not quite sure how long it will take to get going forward, but if my husband is listening, looking down, I know he is overwhelmed by the amount of love and support that everyone is giving me through a second GoFundMe. But I think most important is that, Squatch America was never designed to be Scott and Hannah. It was designed to be everyone contributing their piece of the puzzle. And that is now, because of his departure, that's what it's going to have to be. We've got to do this together, not just for him and not just for us, but for that something that's bigger than ourselves. And I don't know quite what that means, but maybe we can figure it out together.
God bless you, Hannah, and condolences to you and your family, and we'll be seeing you soon.
I'll see you in Boise next time you come.
That sounds great. Good night, friends.
The news came soft on a heavy day that a good man had to go away. Scot Violette of Squatch America, you see, a life cut short for you and me. He was a veteran, strong and true, a desert storm soldier through and through. He found his calling in the woods so deep, a solemn promise he would always keep. Oh, Scott and Hannah, an inspiration to us all, standing tall, answering the call, a search for a legend, a passion they share, the love for the wild beyond all compare. He will be missed by friends and by his family, a life well lived for the world to see.
So I guess we're going to end with you keep watching.
We'll keep squatching.
And go out and find Bigfoot.
Rest in peace, our dear friend, Scot Violette.